Hello everyone. I am sitting on my property in what is our mangrove ecosystem here, and I know that a lot of you are really excited for me to give a full tour of the property, and I'll be showing you more pieces of it as we go along. We saw a little piece of it when I did my Panamanian telenovela video a couple of weeks ago, so I'm giving you little teases here and there, but I promise we're going to get to the real thing here pretty soon. Again, we have been super busy here on the property, and I'm excited to announce that this week we moved in. It's such a relief, and it's been 3 months in the making, and that's what this video is about. Our first 3 months in Panama, because this week marked the 3-month mark for me, at least. Brian hasn't been here for that long, so I kind of wanted to do a little bit of an overview of everything that has happened here in Panama in the last 3 months. I mean, not everything, that would be a really long video, but give you like a general idea of some of the things that we've gone through in the last 3 months. So a little bit maybe about what you can expect if you move here. And again, you know, my situation's a lot different than other people's. If you're moving into, you know, a preset 3-bedroom, 2-bath home on a little piece of land where everything's all hooked up to the grid, your experience is definitely going to vary from mine. So let's say what we normally say: take what you can from this video, leave the rest, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's see, 3 months ago, we came to Panama with all of our paperwork from the U.S. in hand, ready to start our immigration process. And we went through that process in videos with you, showing you how we went about getting our Friendly Nations visa, right? So from the time we got to Panama in mid-November until the time Brian had his temporary residency card was about a week and a half. And from the time that I had mine was after we got to Panama, about 3 weeks, somewhere in there. Mine took a little longer, which due to my little ding on my FBI report, which we talk about that in the second video of the Friendly Nations visa. So with all of that stuff kind of out of the way, the other thing that we did was we came to Bocas because we hadn't seen our property in almost a year. Remember, we had been kept out of the loop because of COVID, and so I'm gonna go really more in depth into how the COVID situation affected our real estate purchase in a future video. But just know that I was in Panama January and February of 2020. We decided to purchase the property at the end of February. I went back to the U.S. at the beginning of March, and then to finalize the purchase, or to get the purchase going. And as we all know what happened in March, I don't need to tell you. So anyway, it took us, you know, until November to be able to get back here because the borders hadn't opened until October 12th. So we wanted to come and inspect our property and make sure that it was still here. And so we did that while Brian was here. And yeah, I mean, there had been some vandalism, more extensive than there had been originally. I literally did not think there was anything else that could be taken from this property. It had been abandoned for about 6 or 7 years, but where there's a will, there's a way. And so they did find some more things that they could take along the way, but nothing that really affected us. So after we knew that, okay, property is good, it's been inspected, let's finish our purchase. So we did all of that. That process, I will say, was a little frustrating. We're going to get into another video, and that's just basically due to so much was out of my control, and I'm having to deal with 2 attorneys, none of which were Kramer law at that point. And so communication, delays, things like that made the process a lot more frustrating than it really should have been. But we did get the property closed. It took us well over a month to do that. Now, after we came to Bocas to check on the property and we went back to Panama City, that was during that week and a half that it took Brian to get his residency card. So Brian was really only here for 2 weeks, from mid-November to the end of November, and then he left. So when he left, at that point, I had to stick around and wait for my residency to be cleared through immigration. So I was basically just in an Airbnb in Panama City that I actually will link below because it's an amazing Airbnb, especially if you are flying in or out of the Albrook Airport. Oh my gosh, this Airbnb is fantastic. In fact, when I went back to Panama City to pick Brian up a couple weeks ago, I stayed there again. And we've already booked it for when Brian flies back to Los Angeles. Just, yeah, it's the place to go. Anyway, so Brian leaves. Oh, and in all the middle of that, we had purchased our vehicle, which we have a video about that as well. And so Brian left, and then I had to drive back to Bocas alone, which really wasn't that big of a deal. And I kind of got caught up in some of the COVID lockdowns over the holidays. So I was in Panama City, and I thought, well, this is the place where I would definitely want to be locked down because I have all of the amenities that I need around me. But then I started realizing that lockdowns in Panama City are no joke. I mean, it's lockdown, like can't leave your house lockdown, gender days for shopping, hours for shopping lockdown. And I decided that that was just really not something I wanted to get into. And so before the lockdowns began, I thought, let me go to my friend's house outside of the Volcan Boquete area. In fact, my friend is my real estate agent that I purchased this property through. So I thought, well, let me go and stay at his house because at least then I'll be in Chiriquí province. There's a lot of amenities there in David, and the lockdowns won't be quite as serious. Well, I got there, and then I realized that the lockdowns were going to be fairly strict, like 4 days, I think it was. I can't remember. It's been a couple months, but like 4 days of total lockdown, can't leave the house, and then a couple days off, and then more total lock days. And so I had to make an executive decision. Do I just want to go ahead and get to Bocas and get moving on my property? And yeah, I kind of did. So I left Chiriquí province right before Christmas, right before those lockdowns started on the 24th. In fact, I think I left on the 23rd. I left Chiriquí and drove over to Bocas. And from there, I had a rental property to go to, which I've mentioned, I think, in another video. Yeah, I did definitely mention that in the buyer rent video that I did. And that property was only a couple of kilometers from my property and is one of the only places to stay on the mainland. So I didn't have a whole lot of options. So I went and I stayed there for the lockdown, and it wasn't that bad because they had internet installed, so I was able to get caught up on some work and things like that. So that's kind of where we were. Then it was time to really start pushing on this property because I'm here by myself, and I had to get a lot of pieces put together before Brian got here because there was going to be a mad rush to get this property into some sort of living condition. And when I say living condition, I'm talking we're basically one level up from camping. I don't think we could quite call it glamping, but it's fairly primitive. But we knew we needed to get it up to that situation so we could get out of the rental and be on our property. And the reason for that is that once you start doing any major work on your property and you have tools laying around and you have materials laying around, you have to be on your property, or there's this mysterious phenomenon that happens in the jungles of Bocas, and I think it probably happens in other places in Panama too. These items will grow legs overnight and walk away. So we needed to make sure that we were here to prevent that from happening. So the things that I had to have in place before Brian got here were, well, I needed electricity. We needed a road put in from the main road down to the bottom of the property because the bottom of the property is where we live. We needed to make sure that our water was set up, and we needed to have our property cleared. So I literally had 5 weeks to get all of those things done. And you might think, well, that's a pretty decent amount of time. Yeah, but this is Panama. And so things can take a lot longer than what you originally planned for. And if you've been watching these videos, you know I'm a planner and I'm very time OCD and I want things done on my time. And the very first step that I took was to get our generator running. We have a very large generator that was on this property when we purchased it, but again, the property has been abandoned for 6 or 7 years and it hasn't been turned on. It's a huge Caterpillar diesel generator. So it is a very, what's the word for it? Very high quality generator. So we brought down somebody, actually when Brian was here, when we were inspecting the property, we brought someone down to look at the generator and tell us everything we needed. And we got all of those parts when we were back in Panama City. So I'd brought those all with me. Now, this is where this whole thing of Panama Time comes in. That generator guy was supposed to meet me here. I think it was like at 8 o'clock. He said he was going to meet me at the property. Okay, so me and my awesome worker, Popsy, St. Popsy, if you've seen which video was that? The employees video, hiring employees video. We're up at the top of the property at 8 o'clock. We're up at the top of the property at 8:30. We're up there at 9. And I'm sending a WhatsApp message. I'm like, what's going on? Oh, I will be there by 10 o'clock. And I'm like, you know what? I have been waiting out here for an hour in the rain for you. And now you're just telling me that you're going to bother getting here in the next hour when you're not even an hour away. Like, you know what? Don't even bother coming. Don't even bother. Because I'm not going to play this game that goes on around here. And a lot of people like to say that it's culture. Oh, it's their culture. It's manana time. Blah, blah, blah. No, it really is not. There are plenty of people in Panama who can show up on time and do a great job. Plenty of them. I have found them. And if you are diligent about the people you hire and you are adamant about things will be done when they're said they're going to be done. Now look, things happen. It rains, and so people can't work when it's raining, or a part is not available, or something like that. I totally get that, and I am totally like easygoing when it comes to that. But when it's just, oh, I have not bothered to get in my vehicle and come down, nor have I bothered to even send you a message to let you know that I'm not going to be there when I said, I'm not playing it. I'm just flat out not playing it. And I promise you word will get around. And I think it already has, because that is literally the only time I've had that problem so far. And believe me, everyone knows your business. Like, everyone knows your business. So when you fire somebody, basically, I mean, I don't know that I fired him, but when you just tell somebody, don't even bother showing up, I'll find someone else, it'll get around. So I turned to Popsy and I said, hey, who do we have for generator? Do you know anybody? He says, well, there's this guy that used to work for Chiquita Banana that lives in Almirante. Great, let's go see him. Went and saw him, talked to him, explained what was going on. He said, I'll be over there the next morning in the boat. I think he said he'd be here at 9. He got here at 9:30. Not a big deal. I can live with that. That's easy, okay? Gets over here, gets my generator running with all of the parts that we had, and charges me half of what the guy who couldn't bother to show up was going to charge me. So win-win. So the generator was fixed and we had electricity. Now that we had electricity, the next step that we went to was the road. Now we have a little less than 5 hectares here, which is about 13 acres. And from the main road down to the water, which the water is right here behind me, not too far. I'm actually sitting on my dock right now, is about a third of a mile. I don't know what that is in kilometers, but about a third of a mile down the hill, down a steep hill, down a not a joke hill. And because it had been grown up, there wasn't even a road there anymore. It was basically just weeds. So we had been walking up and down, and the down is not so bad, but the up, oh my gosh, is really steep. So we got a hold of the guy. Okay, let me step back. We had found a guy originally that had given us a quote on the road and to do some work on the building where we're living. And the quote was so outrageously overpriced that we were just like, I mean, do I have stupid gringa written across my forehead? No, I don't. So I actually talked to a few other people, and I found the guy who originally put the road in here at this property years and years ago. I mean, probably like 15 years ago or something. Hired him. He came over, and in 2 days, and for like oh my gosh, maybe like a sixth of the cost that this other guy was trying to charge me, he put the road in and did a fantastic job. Like, everyone had been telling me how horrible this road was going to be. This road is awesome. We're going to have him come back and do just some extra work just to make it a little bit better. We're going to put some more rock on it because a lot of the rock had kind of washed away, but the road is in great condition. Okay, so now we have electricity and we have a road. We are rocking. And this is literally like in the first week and a half. All right, so next thing we need to do is worry about our water. We are so lucky here that we have a well. So our well is about, I think, 250 feet deep, something like that. We don't have to rely on rainwater catchment, which is phenomenal. But there was a well pump in there that had not been run again for years and years and years. So we didn't know if it was going to run or not. And it's not like we can just run down to Home Depot and grab another well pump. I mean, well pumps are going to be kind of hard to come by around here. So we need electricity, obviously, to start that. And that's up at the top of the property. So we took a portable generator up and plugged the well pump in, and voila, that thing started right up like it was brand new. I mean, everyone was like, are you kidding me? We can't even believe this. It was fantastic. So then we cleaned out all of the storage tanks for water because the top of the property is here and the buildings that we live in are down here, and it's all gravity fed. Well, as you can imagine, that is some super gravity coming down a third of a mile down that hill. So we have water storage tanks in place where we can kind of regulate the flow a little bit. Like I said, we cleaned those out really good. We hooked up all of the plumbing down here at the bottom of the property, and it all went chink, chink, chink. Perfect. Okay, so all of that's running great. Now we have electricity, a road, and water. And that's basically what I needed in place for Brian to get here so he could start doing his work. We were then faced with the problem of cleaning this property. Again, it's pretty massive. So we had Popsy, and he came up with 4 guys who were going to clean the property, and they went through, and over the course of about the next 3 weeks, I would say, I think 3 to 4 weeks, somewhere right in there, they macheted. Oh my God, these guys work so hard. They macheted this entire property. Now, not all 13 acres, because we do have a large section over here by our creek that's all wild, and I don't know how many acres that is, but it's probably about 3 acres total. So they probably did close to, let's be conservative and say a minimum of 8 acres. They macheted by hand and then raked everything up into piles and burned it because there was just so much yard waste. I couldn't even begin to start composting any of that. It was just too much. So we got all of that taken care of. So then by the time Brian was ready to come here at the 1st of February, we were ready to really start rocking on getting this property together. So the first thing that we had to do once Brian got here, okay, so he got here, the buildings had not been touched. We hadn't done anything to them other than I had a door guy come out. There's a guy that makes custom doors in Almirante. His name is Danilo, and he quoted us $175 per door. And we had 4 sets of French doors, so a total of 8 doors with glass. They turned out beautiful, and you'll see when I do the video about the buildings. They turned out great. So he had come out and measured those because we had to have 2 things in place for us to be able to move into the property. We had to have the doors because all the doors had been stolen. So we had to have the doors in place. And we had to have all of our appliances that were coming from David. So Brian and I, on the way back from Panama City, had stopped in David and done all of our appliance shopping. And there's a delivery service here called Toby Transport that is like Amazon Prime for the jungle. So David is like 3.5 hours away. So it's not like I can just run over there. We got a refrigerator, let's see, we got a refrigerator, we got a stove, we got a washer, a dryer, and 2 couches, because we have 2 different units and we found them on sale. So we had all of that stuff delivered from David, and it was like $200 to get it all delivered, which I thought was well worth it. So we had to have our appliances, because we had to have like a refrigerator and a stove, and we had to have the doors on. So the deal was, oh wait, I have to go back. Okay, I'm trying to do everything in one take, because poor Brian is the one who tries to piece these videos together, and he is too busy to do that right now. With the electricity, oh my gosh, this is so important. I did not want to run that generator 24/7, so we had electricity all of the time. And a lot of people around here have solar with a generator backup, but I also didn't want to spend all the money on solar, because we're on the road and eventually we're going to get electrical power from the grid here. So I really didn't want to dump a bunch of money into solar. So it was like, what are my options? What can I do with this generator so I don't have to run it 24/7? Because I don't like the noise, and plus it's sucking up diesel and it sucks for the environment. So we talked to a guy named Victor in David, who came highly recommended, who came out here from David absolutely on time, and installed something called an Outback system that I'll talk about in another video when we talk about the electricity, that is basically a battery bank. So we can turn the generator on, charge the batteries, and then run off the batteries all day. And then at night we can charge the batteries up a little bit more and run off the batteries all night. So we are quiet around here the vast majority of the time, and just running off the battery stuff. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. It is really amazing. One more backup, the internet. We had to get the internet installed, and we use Panama for that. They are also an amazing company who, shows up on time and does what they're supposed to do. Like I said, everyone we've been dealing with so far shows up on time and does what they're supposed to do. So I was a little nervous when it came to, we're going to get back to the doors and the appliances now, when it came to the day that all of that was supposed to happen, because it was supposed to happen on the same day. We were supposed to move in that day. This was the 13th of February, which is exactly 3 months to the day that we had originally arrived in Panama. And we were supposed to be out of our rental by the 15th. So if anything went wrong, we were going to be kind of in a little bit of a pickle. Before 9 a.m., here's the door guy to install all of the doors, and here's Toby Transport to deliver all of our appliances. I mean, it literally could not have gone smoother. So, with doors in and appliances here, and the appliances were up at the top of the property and they couldn't get the big truck down, so we had to load everything into our Hilux pickup and then bring it down here and offload and then go up and get another load. But it all worked out. I mean, you make it work here. It's just what you do. You make it work. Things aren't always 100% easy. You figure out the way to make it work. Figured it out and moved in that night, February 13th. Okay, look. Oh, and a mattress was also in that delivery. Like I said, we're 3 months in. We have accomplished so much on this property that people, like Popsy was even like, I mean, this is like almost a direct quote from him. I've worked with you kinds of people before, gringos, and it never goes this smoothly for anyone. They never get this much stuff done this fast. And then my real estate agent friend, Lazar from Roots Real Estate, he said, I told him, I said, we're moving in today. He's in Canada right now. He said, that's like 6 months ahead of schedule. Yeah, it's because I'm on top of things. I try to choose people who are well recommended. They don't have to be the cheapest people. They have to be the people that have good reputations. Good reputations for quality work and for showing up on time. Period. And so I'm kind of sticking to that formula, and it's really, really working. Is it going to work all the time? No, it's not. Are there going to be days where I'm frustrated because someone didn't show up? Yeah, it's going to happen. But all in all, in the last 3 months, things have gone unbelievably smoothly around here. Way more smoothly than I would expect for a rural jungle area. Oh, and I know there's always an O. We are also remodeling a building up at the top of our property right now. And we've hired a construction crew to do that. So we have a contractor that's doing that and shows up on time and does his work. Amazing. Okay? It can happen here. Just don't get in your mind that everything in Panama has to be difficult. It doesn't. Some things in Panama are difficult, but not everything. And if you really do your due diligence and try to find quality people and then lay out your expectations, don't stand back and be a wallflower here. Don't be like, oh, I'm the gringo and I don't know anything that's going on and I just have to follow everyone else's lead. Oh, no, you don't. If you're paying the money, everybody better follow your lead. Period. It's just the way it is. If you want to get paid around here, you better do what you're supposed to do when you say you're supposed to do it and to the best of your ability. That's all I am asking. I'm not asking for the world here. Just efficiency, which is possible here in Panama, even though a lot of people say it isn't. And quality work. Again, it's here. You just have to, not even demand it. You just have to seek it out and find those right people and take the time to do that. So now we've been living on the property for like 4 or 5 days now. I don't even know what day it is anymore. It's not perfect. We don't have like a full kitchen. We just have like a refrigerator, a stove, and some folding tables. We don't have a countertop or a sink in there. Our bathroom is functional. We have a shower and a toilet and a sink in there. The toilet and the sink we brought from the David, and the shower was already installed in there, so we just reinstalled all of those things. Yeah, it's going great, and I'm really enjoying it. And that's not to say that sometimes frustrating things don't happen, because they do. The first night we were here, our electricity went out because we figured out that our electrician accidentally wired the breaker box wrong, and it drained our entire battery bank, and it was this huge nightmare for like 6 hours trying to figure out what happened. But we figured it out and we fixed it and we moved on with our life. And that's kind of what Panama is about. My good world schooling friends, the Shermans, who I've spent some time with, have an acronym for it called FSO, figuring shiznit out. And that's what you have to do here. It's all about FSO. Figure it out. It might not be the way you would do it at home. Figure it out. You'll get there. You can do it. You can go from 0 to a life you enjoy with a little bit of patience, with standing up for yourself, with setting expectations and making people understand that they need to meet those expectations if they want to get paid, and protecting yourself with things like contracts, like we talked about in another video. So that's the first 3 months in Panama. I feel like this video is 3 months long, but these videos aren't just for you guys. They're for me too, because I want to look back and remember like all of these little things that have been happening to us here on our Panamanian adventure. So next week, the plan is either the dog video or start the real estate. It depends upon kind of where we're at and everything. So those things that I've been promising, they're starting next week. It's tough because Brian is working constantly trying to get everything up to speed, and he doesn't have a lot of time to mess with videos. So we do what we can do. All right. So until next Friday, have a great week.